I was sitting in my apartment scrolling through my phone like any other Thursday evening when the call came. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer it. God, I wish I hadn't answered it, because the voice on the other end shattered my entire world in 3 seconds flat. Is this Maya Rodriguez? This is St. Mary's Hospital. Your sister Emma has been brought in. She collapsed at home. You need to get here now. The phone slipped from my hands. Emma, my little sister, 8 months pregnant with her first baby, the sister who called me every morning just to hear my voice, the sister who was supposed to be living her fairy tale with her husband Marcus, the sister who was carrying my future niece or nephew. I don't remember driving to the hospital. I don't remember parking. I don't remember running through those automatic doors. All I remember is the pure animalistic terror clawing at my chest as I sprinted into the maternity ward, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might explode. Emma Rodriguez, I gasped at the reception desk. My sister, where is she? The nurse looked up at me with those practiced, sympathetic eyes that hospital staff perfect over years of delivering bad news. Are you family? I'm her sister. I'm her emergency contact. Where is she? She's in room 314, but I didn't wait to hear the rest. I ran. Down those sterile corridors that smelled like disinfectant and fear, past other families dealing with their own nightmares. My sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. Room 314, room 314. Where was room 314? The numbers blurred past me. 308, 310, 312. And then I saw it. 314. But there were people blocking the doorway. Nurses. A security guard. And they all looked tense, really tense. Excuse me, I said, pushing forward. That's my sister in there. I need to see her. A nurse with kind eyes but a firm voice stepped in front of me. Mum, you can't go in right now. The doctors are with her. What happened to her? Is the baby okay? Is Emma okay? The questions tumbled out of me like a broken dam. Nobody will tell me anything. That's when I felt it. A hand on my wrist, gentle but urgent. I turned to see a young doctor, maybe in his late 20s, with tired eyes and stubble that suggested he'd been working for way too long. He looked nervous, really nervous. Please, he whispered, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. Don't go in there yet. Trust me, someone in that room is lying. I stared at him. What are you talking about? He pulled me a few steps away from the crowd at Emma's door. His hands were shaking. Actually shaking. I'm Dr. Chen. I was one of the doctors who examined your sister when she came in, and I need you to know something before you go in there. Know what? My voice was getting higher, more desperate. What's wrong with my sister? Before he could answer, alarms started blaring. Not just one alarm, multiple alarms, the kind that make your blood run cold. Nurses started rushing past us, their faces grim and focused. Equipment was being wheeled down the hallway at breakneck speed. Code blue in room 314, code blue in room 314. My legs almost gave out. That's Emma's room. That's my sister. Dr. Chen grabbed my arm again. Listen to me. 5 minutes. That's all I had before they moved her into surgery. 5 minutes to figure out what really happened to her, and what I found doesn't add up. Surgery? I could barely breathe. What kind of surgery? Emergency C-section. The baby's in distress. Your sister's blood pressure is dangerously low, but here's the thing. He looked around again, paranoid. The symptoms don't match what her husband told us. Marcus, Emma's husband of 2 years, the man she'd fallen head over heels for, the man who'd swept her off her feet with grand romantic gestures and promises of forever, the man who was supposed to be taking care of her and their unborn child. What did Marcus tell you? I asked. He said she just collapsed, said she'd been feeling fine all day, said it came out of nowhere. Dr. Chen's jaw tightened. But when I examined her, I found old bruising on her arms. defensive wounds on her hands, and she was severely dehydrated, like she hadn't eaten or drunk anything substantial in days. The words hit me like physical blows. Bruising? What kind of bruising? The kind that comes from being grabbed, hard, repeatedly. I felt the world tilt. This couldn't be happening. Not to Emma. Not to my sweet, trusting little sister who saw the good in everyone. Not to the girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms and who made me promise to always protect her. "Where's Marcus now?" I managed to ask. Dr. Chen nodded toward Emma's room. "In there, and that's what's bothering me most." I moved closer to the door, and through the small window I could see inside. Emma was on a stretcher, unconscious, with tubes and wires everywhere. But what made my stomach lurch wasn't the medical equipment. It was Marcus. He wasn't crying. He wasn't pacing with worry like any normal husband should be. He was standing over Emma's bed, having what looked like a heated argument with the senior doctor. His face was red with anger, not grief. His fists were clenched, not shaking with fear. "He wasn't panicking," I whispered, more to myself than to Dr. Chen. He was angry, almost too angry. As I watched, Marcus jabbed his finger at the doctor's chest, saying something that made the older man take a step back. This wasn't a concerned husband demanding answers. This was a man who was furious about something. But what? Dr. Chen moved closer to me. "There's something else. Something your sister said to me when she was conscious for those few minutes before they sedated her." "What?" He looked around one more time, then leaned in close. "Your sister told me she didn't feel safe with him anymore. She grabbed my hand and begged me not to leave her alone with him." The words hit me like a freight train. Emma didn't feel safe with Marcus, the man she'd married, the father of her child, the man she'd defended to me when I'd expressed my concerns about how quickly they'd gotten engaged. "That's impossible," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew they weren't true. Because suddenly things started clicking into place. Horrible, terrible things that I'd been too blind to see. The way Emma had stopped calling me as much over the past few months. The way she'd cancelled our weekly lunch dates, always with some excuse about Marcus having plans for them. The way she'd seemed more withdrawn during family gatherings, quieter than her usual bubbly self. "When did she tell you this?" I asked. "Right before they gave her the sedative. She was in and out of consciousness, but she was lucid enough to be scared. Really scared." Dr. Chen's voice dropped even lower. She said, and I quote, "Don't let him make decisions for me. Please, I don't trust him anymore." I felt rage building in my chest. Pure, hot rage like I'd never experienced before. "And you're telling me this now? Why didn't you—" "Because I'm a junior resident," he interrupted. "Because Marcus is charming and well-dressed and speaks with authority. Because when I tried to voice my concerns to the attending physician, he told me I was overstepping and to focus on the medical issues, not domestic speculation." "Domestic speculation," I repeated, my voice getting louder. "My sister is lying unconscious in there after telling you she doesn't feel safe with her husband, and they're calling it speculation." "Keep your voice down," Dr. Chen warned. "Look, I'm risking my career by telling you this. But I couldn't live with myself if something happened to your sister, and I hadn't warned someone in her family." I stared back through the window at Marcus. He was still arguing with the doctor, gesturing aggressively. And that's when I really looked at him, really saw him. The Marcus I was seeing now wasn't the charming, attentive man who'd won Emma over. This was someone else entirely, someone with cold eyes and an angry mouth and hands that moved too sharply, too aggressively. How had I missed it? How had we all missed it? But then the memories started flooding back, and I realized maybe I hadn't missed it. Maybe I'd just convinced myself I was being paranoid. The signs I ignored. The first sign was about 6 months ago. Emma had always been meticulous about her prenatal care. She'd read every pregnancy book, attended every appointment religiously, called me after each ultrasound to tell me how the baby was developing. She was so excited to be a mum. But then the appointments stopped, or rather, she stopped telling me about them. "How did the 20-week ultrasound go?" I'd asked her during one of our phone calls. "Oh, Marcus handled it," she'd said casually. "He said everything looked fine." "Marcus handled it? You didn't go with him?" "I wasn't feeling well that day. He took the appointment for me." That should have been a massive red flag. What pregnant woman doesn't go to her own ultrasound appointments? But Emma had explained it away so smoothly, and I'd been busy with work, and I'd let it slide. Then there was the incident with the baby shower. I'd offered to throw Emma a beautiful shower, invite all our friends and family, make it a celebration she'd never forget. Emma had been thrilled about the idea initially, already making lists of people to invite and themes she liked. But then Marcus had put a stop to it. "He thinks it's too much stress for me," Emma had told me over the phone, and I could hear something strange in her voice, something flat and defeated. "He's probably right. I have been feeling overwhelmed lately." "Overwhelmed about what?" I'd asked. "You're not working anymore. What could be overwhelming you?" "Just things. Planning for the baby, getting the nursery ready. Marcus says I need to focus on staying calm and not getting worked up about parties and social events." I'd pushed back, hard. "Emma, this is your first baby. This is supposed to be one of the most exciting times of your life. A baby shower isn't stress, it's celebration." "I know, Maya, but Marcus knows what's best for me right now. He's been reading all the pregnancy books too, and he says too much stimulation can be bad for the baby." Too much stimulation. What kind of husband tells his pregnant wife that celebrating their baby could be harmful? But I'd let it go. Again. Because Emma seemed convinced, and because Marcus had a way of making his controlling behavior sound like caring concern. Then there was the phone call from Mom. "Have you talked to Emma lately?" she'd asked me about 3 months ago. "Really talked to her?" "We text almost every day," I'd said. "Why?" "She seems different when Marcus is around, quieter. She kept looking at him during dinner last Sunday, like she was checking to see if what she was saying was okay." I'd laughed it off. "Mum, you're being dramatic. Marcus adores Emma. He probably just wants to make sure she doesn't tire herself out talking too much." "Maya," Mum had said in that serious voice she used when she was really worried. "I've been married to your father for 32 years. I know what a man looks like when he loves his wife, and I know what a man looks like when he's controlling his wife. Marcus isn't showing love, he's showing ownership." I'd gotten defensive. "That's a horrible thing to say about Emma's husband." "I hope I'm wrong," Mum had said quietly. "I really hope I'm wrong." She wasn't wrong. God, she wasn't wrong. And now Emma was lying unconscious in a hospital bed, and I'd failed to protect her. But the worst memory was from just last week. Emma had called me late at night, crying. "Maya," she'd sobbed into the phone, "I need to tell you something." "What's wrong? Is the baby okay?" "The baby's fine. It's Marcus. He's been—" She'd paused for so long I thought the call had dropped. "He's been different lately, really different." "Different how?" "Controlling, more controlling than usual. He won't let me go to appointments alone anymore. He goes through my phone. He tells me what I can and can't eat, who I can and can't talk to. He says it's because he wants to take care of me, but Maya, it doesn't feel like care. It feels like—" "Like what?" "Like prison." The word had hung between us like a live wire. Prison. My sister felt like she was living in a prison. "Emma," I'd said carefully, "do you feel safe?" Another long pause. Then, "I don't know anymore. He's never hurt me physically, but the way he looks at me sometimes. And the things he says when he's angry." "What kinds of things?" "He tells me I'm lucky he puts up with me. He says no other man would want a woman as needy and stupid as me. He says if I ever tried to leave him, he'd make sure I never saw my baby again. Her voice had gotten smaller and smaller. Maya, I'm scared. Okay, I'd said, my heart breaking. Okay, we're going to figure this out. Do you want to come stay with me for a while, just until… I can't. The fear in her voice was unmistakable. If he found out I was talking to you about this, if he knew I was even considering leaving… Maya, last night he told me he would fix everything if I didn't stop being so difficult. I don't know what that means, but the way he said it… Emma, you need to get out of there, tonight, right now. I can't. I'm 8 months pregnant. I don't have anywhere to go. All my money is in joint accounts that he monitors. And Maya, what if he's right? What if no court would give me custody? What if I'm overreacting and I ruin my marriage over nothing? This isn't nothing, I'd said firmly. This is emotional abuse, and it's not going to get better after the baby comes. It's going to get worse. I know, she'd whispered. I know, but I just need to think. I need to figure out what to do. Promise me something, I'd said. Promise me you won't be alone with him if you feel unsafe. Promise me you'll call me if anything happens, anything at all. I promise. That was 6 days ago. 6 days, and I hadn't heard from Emma since. I'd texted her multiple times, called her phone, which went straight to voicemail, and even tried calling Marcus, who told me Emma was resting and couldn't come to the phone. I should have gone over there. I should have trusted my instincts. I should have protected my little sister. And now she was in surgery, fighting for her life and the life of her baby because I'd failed her. Dr. Chen was still standing next to me, watching my face as the realization of my sister's situation sank in completely. I need to get in that room, I said. You can't. They've taken her up to surgery, but her husband is still in there, and I think you need to know what else I overheard. What else? Before you got here, when the paramedics first brought your sister in, I heard Marcus on the phone in the hallway. He was talking to someone and he said, "It doesn't matter what she told you before. She's not thinking clearly. The pregnancy hormones have made her paranoid and irrational. Whatever decisions need to be made, I'm her husband, so I make them." The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. Marcus hadn't just been controlling Emma. He'd been isolating her, gaslighting her, making sure that if she ever tried to reach out for help, no one would believe her because he'd already painted her as unstable. There's more, Dr. Chen continued. When I asked him about Emma's medical history, about any complications she might have had during the pregnancy, he told me she'd been seeing a psychiatrist for postpartum depression. Postpartum depression? I laughed bitterly. She hasn't even given birth yet. It's called prenatal depression, and Emma never mentioned anything about seeing a psychiatrist. That's what I thought too, so I checked her medical records. No psychiatric treatment. No prescriptions for antidepressants or anxiety medication. No referrals to mental health professionals. He lied. Why would he lie about that? Dr. Chen's expression was grim. Because if something happened to your sister, if she didn't make it through this, he wanted everyone to believe she was mentally unstable, suicidal even. The words hit me like a physical blow. You think he did this to her? Intentionally? I think your sister didn't collapse from natural pregnancy complications, Dr. Chen said quietly. Her blood work showed signs of severe dehydration and malnutrition. In my opinion, someone has been deliberately withholding food and water from her. I couldn't breathe, literally couldn't catch my breath. Marcus had been starving my sister, starving her and her unborn baby. How long would it take, I asked through numb lips, to cause that level of dehydration and malnutrition? Days, at least 3 or 4 days of being given minimal food and water. 3 or 4 days, the same amount of time since Emma had stopped answering my calls and texts. I looked back through the window at Marcus, and this time I really saw him, not the charming man who'd swept Emma off her feet. Not the devoted husband who claimed to love her more than life itself. I saw him for what he really was, a monster who'd been slowly killing my sister and his own child. And that's when the alarm stopped. The hallway went quiet except for the usual hospital sounds, the beeping of machines, the soft conversations of medical staff, the distant sound of a television. But the frantic energy was gone. Dr. Chen pulled out his pager and looked at it. His face went white. "What?" I asked. "What is it?" "The surgery. It's over." "Already? That was fast. Is that good or bad?" He was already moving toward the elevator. "Come on, we need to get to the surgical floor." I followed him, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Is Emma okay? Is the baby okay? Why won't you answer me?" The elevator ride to the surgical floor felt like it lasted hours. Dr. Chen kept checking his pager, his jaw getting tighter with each beep. "Dr. Chen," I said as we reached the surgical floor, "please, just tell me what's happening." The elevator doors opened and we stepped out into another sterile hallway. But this one was different. This one had windows that looked into operating rooms, and nurses moving with purposeful urgency, and that particular tension that comes with life or death situations. "Dr. Rodriguez is in OR3, a nurse called to Dr. Chen as we walked past. "Dr. Williams wants to see you immediately." OR3. Emma was in OR3. Through the windows, I could see figures in surgical scrubs working over a table, but I couldn't make out any details. Dr. Chen guided me to a small waiting area. "Wait here. I'll find out what's happening and come back to tell you everything." "No." I stood up. "I'm not waiting here while my sister is in surgery. I want to talk to the doctor who's operating on her. I want answers." "Maya?" "Don't Maya me. That's my little sister in there. The sister I've been taking care of since she was 5 years old and our dad walked out. The sister who used to braid my hair and paint my nails and tell me all her secrets. The sister who's carrying my niece or nephew. I'm not sitting in some waiting room while people who don't know her make decisions about her life." Dr. Chen looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my face must have convinced him I wasn't backing down. "Okay," he said, "but you have to stay calm. Whatever Dr. Williams tells us, you have to stay calm." Dr. Williams turned out to be a woman in her 50s, with greying hair pulled back in a surgical cap, and the kind of steady, serious demeanor that comes from decades of dealing with medical crises. "Dr. Chen," she said as we approached. "Good. I need to speak with you about Mrs. Rodriguez." "This is Maya Rodriguez, the patient's sister," Dr. Chen said. "She's Emma's emergency contact and next of kin aside from the husband." Dr. Williams looked at me with those same practiced, sympathetic eyes I was getting tired of seeing. "Ms. Rodriguez, your sister is stable. The baby is stable. We were able to deliver him safely via emergency C-section." "Him?" I felt tears starting. "It's a boy." "Yes, a healthy baby boy. 6 pounds, 2 ounces. He's in the NICU as a precaution since he was delivered early, but his vital signs are strong." Relief flooded through me so intensely I thought I might collapse. Emma was okay. The baby was okay. They were both going to be fine. But Dr. Williams wasn't finished. "However," she continued, "there are some concerns about your sister's condition that we need to discuss." "What kind of concerns?" Dr. Williams glanced at Dr. Chen, then back at me. "Your sister's blood work revealed some troubling findings. Severe dehydration, as Dr. Chen suspected, malnutrition, dangerously low blood sugar, and traces of a sedative in her system." "A sedative?" "Diphenhydramine. It's an antihistamine that can cause drowsiness in large doses. The amount in your sister's system was well beyond what would be considered a normal dose for treating allergies." I felt the world tilt again. "You're saying someone drugged her?" I'm saying that the combination of malnutrition, dehydration, and sedative medication created a perfect storm that caused your sister to collapse. And based on the levels we found, these weren't accidental or self-administered. Someone did this to her deliberately. Dr. Williams nodded gravely. That's our assessment. We've already contacted hospital security and the police. This is being treated as a potential attempted murder case. Attempted murder? Someone had tried to murder my sister and her unborn child. Where's Marcus? I asked. Mr. Rodriguez is being questioned by security downstairs. He's been asking to make medical decisions for your sister, but we've explained that until she's conscious and able to speak for herself. Any major decisions will need to go through you as her emergency contact. What kind of medical decisions? Dr. Williams and Dr. Chen exchanged another look. Mr. Rodriguez has been insisting that your sister should be transferred to a psychiatric facility immediately after she recovers from surgery, Dr. Williams said carefully. He claims she's been suffering from severe prenatal depression and has been making threats of self-harm. That's a lie. We suspected as much, given the evidence we found. A woman suffering from prenatal depression severe enough to warrant immediate psychiatric intervention wouldn't typically be found with antihistamine poisoning and signs of deliberate starvation. Antihistamine poisoning, deliberate starvation. The words kept hitting me like physical blows. Can I see her? I asked. She's being moved to a recovery room now. She should be waking up within the next hour. But Ms. Rodriguez, I need to warn you, when she does wake up, she's going to be confused and frightened. The trauma of what she's been through, combined with the emergency surgery and the medications we had to give her, means she might not remember everything clearly at first. Will she remember what happened to her? Will she remember who did this? We don't know yet, but what I can tell you is that your sister is a fighter. She held on long enough for us to save both her and the baby, even though her body was shutting down. She wanted to survive. She wanted her baby to survive. I closed my eyes and tried to process everything I'd learned. Emma had been poisoned, starved, nearly murdered by the man who was supposed to love and protect her. The man who had been planning to have her committed to a psychiatric facility if she survived. But she had survived. She and the baby had both survived. And Marcus was downstairs, probably spinning lies to anyone who would listen, trying to convince them that my sister was crazy and he was the devoted husband trying to save her from herself. I want to see my nephew first, I said. Then I want to be there when Emma wakes up, and I want to make sure Marcus doesn't get anywhere near either of them. That can all be arranged, Dr. Williams said. Hospital security is already aware that Mr. Rodriguez is not to be allowed access to your sister or the baby without police supervision. As we walked toward the NICU, Dr. Chen fell into step beside me. There's something else you should know, he said quietly. When the police interviewed Marcus downstairs, he told them that your sister has been acting erratically for weeks. He said she'd been refusing to eat, refusing to take her prenatal vitamins, and talking about harming herself and the baby. All lies. I know, but here's the thing, he had documentation to back up his claims. I stopped walking. What kind of documentation? A journal, written in what appears to be your sister's handwriting. Entries dated over the past several weeks, describing feelings of hopelessness, thoughts of suicide, and fears that she wouldn't be a good mother. Emma would never write things like that. She was so excited about this baby. I believe you, but the handwriting analysis will take time, and in the meantime, Marcus is using that journal to paint a picture of a mentally unstable woman who was a danger to herself and her unborn child. We'd reached the NICU. Through the large windows, I could see rows of tiny incubators, each one containing a baby fighting their own battle for life. And there, in the incubator closest to the window, was my nephew. He was so small, so perfect. Dark hair like Emma's, and even through the tangle of wires and tubes, I could see he had her delicate features. He was moving slightly, his tiny fists opening and closing, completely unaware that he'd just survived his first murder attempt. "He's beautiful," I whispered. "He's going to be fine," Dr. Chen assured me. "Full-term babies born at 36 weeks usually do very well with minimal intervention." I pressed my hand against the window, wishing I could reach through and touch him. This little boy who should have been born into a family full of love and excitement. Instead, he'd been born into a nightmare. But he was alive. Against all odds, he was alive. "Has Marcus seen him?" I asked. "He asked to, but we told him he needed to wait until after he finished speaking with the police." "Good. I don't want that monster anywhere near this baby." We stood there for a few more minutes, watching my nephew sleep peacefully in his incubator before Dr. Chen guided me toward Emma's recovery room. "She should be waking up soon," he said as we walked. "But remember, she's going to be disoriented at first. Try not to overwhelm her with questions right away. I just want her to know she's safe. I want her to know that I believe her and that Marcus can't hurt her anymore." Emma's recovery room was private, with a large window that looked out onto the city. She was lying in the hospital bed, still unconscious, with an IV in her arm and monitors tracking her vital signs. Even unconscious, she looked better than she had when I'd first seen her on the stretcher. There was more colour in her face, and her breathing seemed easier. I pulled a chair up next to her bed and took her hand. It felt so small and fragile in mine. "I'm here, Em," I whispered. "I'm here, and you're safe. You and the baby are both safe." Her eyelids fluttered slightly, but she didn't wake up. "Miss Rodriguez?" A voice from the doorway made me turn. A police officer was standing there, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a notebook in her hand. "I'm Detective Martinez. I'm investigating your sister's case. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" I looked back at Emma, not wanting to leave her side. "I can stay with her," Dr. Chen offered. "If she wakes up, I'll come get you immediately." Detective Martinez and I stepped into the hallway, where she opened her notebook and clicked her pen. "I understand you have some concerns about your sister's husband," she began. "Concerns?" I laughed bitterly. "Detective, my sister called me 6 days ago and told me she was scared of Marcus. She said he'd been controlling her, threatening her, and making her feel like a prisoner in her own home. Now she's in the hospital with antihistamine poisoning and signs of deliberate starvation. I'd say concerns is putting it mildly." Detective Martinez nodded and made notes. "Can you tell me more about that phone conversation? What exactly did your sister say?" I told her everything. Every detail of Emma's late-night call, every red flag I'd ignored over the past few months, every instinct I'd dismissed as paranoia. Detective Martinez listened carefully, asking clarifying questions and filling several pages with notes. "Did your sister ever mention feeling physically unsafe?" she asked. "Any incidents of physical violence?" "She said he'd never hurt her physically, but she mentioned the way he looked at her sometimes, and Dr. Chen found bruising on her arms that looked like she'd been grabbed. We photographed those injuries. We also found defensive wounds on her knuckles, suggesting she'd been fighting back against someone." Fighting back? My gentle, peace-loving sister had been forced to fight back against the man she'd married. "What about the journal Marcus showed you?" I asked. "The one where he claims Emma wrote about wanting to hurt herself and the baby." Detective Martinez's expression darkened. "We're having that analysed by a handwriting expert, but even without the expert analysis, there are some red flags. The entries are all written in the same pen, with the same pressure and spacing, suggesting they were all written at the same time, rather than over a period of weeks. Also, some of the language used doesn't match your sister's normal writing patterns based on other samples we've found. He forged it. That's our working theory. Mr. Rodriguez has been very cooperative, perhaps overly so. He's been eager to provide explanations for everything, and his story has been remarkably consistent, almost rehearsed. What's his story? He claims your sister had been acting strangely for weeks, refusing to eat, staying in bed all day, talking about feeling like she'd made a mistake getting married and having a baby. He says he was trying to get her help, but she refused to see a doctor or therapist. All lies. What's interesting is that he had very specific details about her supposed mental health decline, but when we asked him basic questions about her pregnancy, like when her due date was, or what they were planning to name the baby, he couldn't answer. I felt a chill run down my spine. He didn't know when his own child was due? He said February, but according to her medical records, her due date is January 15th. That's not the kind of detail a devoted husband forgets. January 15th, less than 6 weeks away. Emma had been so close to meeting her baby safely, and Marcus had nearly taken that away from her. "Detective," I said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Do you think Marcus was trying to kill Emma, or was he trying to hurt the baby?" Detective Martinez was quiet for a long moment. "Based on what we've found so far, I think he was trying to cause a miscarriage or stillbirth. The antihistamine poisoning combined with malnutrition and dehydration creates conditions that are extremely dangerous for a developing fetus, but not necessarily fatal for the mother. Why would he want to hurt the baby? That's something we're still investigating. But Ms. Rodriguez, there's something else you should know. We searched your sister's home earlier today, and we found some things that suggest Mr. Rodriguez has been planning this for a while." "What kind of things?" "Hidden camera equipment, recording devices, a laptop with files containing detailed notes about your sister's daily routines, eating habits, and sleep patterns. And a life insurance policy on your sister that was taken out 3 months ago. A policy worth $2 million that lists your sister's husband as the sole beneficiary." $2 million? Marcus had been planning to murder my sister for $2 million. "There's more," Detective Martinez continued. "We also found evidence that he'd been researching psychiatric facilities and involuntary commitment procedures. If his plan to cause a miscarriage had worked, it appears he was planning to have your sister committed based on the forged journal entries, then claim the life insurance money after she committed suicide in the psychiatric facility." The scope of Marcus's plan was staggering. He hadn't just been abusing Emma, he'd been systematically destroying her life in preparation for taking it completely. "Where is he now?" I asked. "Still in custody downstairs. We're holding him for questioning, but we'll need more evidence to make formal charges stick." "What about Emma? Will she be safe?" "We've got a security detail assigned to her floor. Mr. Rodriguez won't be allowed anywhere near your sister or the baby without police supervision, and once your sister is awake and able to give her statement, we'll have a much stronger case." Just then, Dr. Chen appeared in the hallway, looking excited. "She's awake," he said. "Emma's awake and asking for you." I practically ran back to Emma's room, Detective Martinez close behind me. Emma was sitting up slightly in her bed, looking confused and frightened but alert. When she saw me, her face crumpled with relief. "Maya," she whispered, reaching for me. "Maya, something terrible happened. I remember Marcus was... and then everything went black." I took her hand and sat down next to her bed. "I'm here, Em. You're safe. You and the baby are both safe." "The baby?" Her free hand went to her stomach, which was now flat beneath the hospital gown. "Where's my baby? Maya, where's my baby?" "He's fine. He's in the NICU and he's perfect. You had a C-section, but both of you came through it beautifully." "He?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I have a son. You have a son. 6 pounds, 2 ounces, and he's absolutely beautiful. He has your hair and your delicate features." Emma closed her eyes and took a shaky breath. I remember being so scared that something would happen to him. Marcus was giving me pills. He said they were vitamins, but they made me so sleepy, and he wasn't letting me eat. He said I was getting too fat, that the doctor had told him I needed to lose weight. Detective Martinez stepped forward. Emma, I'm Detective Martinez. I'm investigating what happened to you. I know this is difficult, but can you tell me more about the pills Marcus was giving you? Emma looked at me uncertainly, and I squeezed her hand. It's okay. You can trust her. Marcus is in police custody, and he can't hurt you anymore. He's in custody. Emma's relief was visible. Thank God. Maya, I was so scared. I tried to call you so many times, but he took my phone. He said I was being paranoid and that talking to you was making my depression worse. Emma, Detective Martinez said gently, can you describe the pills Marcus was giving you? They were small and white. He said they were prenatal vitamins, but they looked different from the ones I'd been taking before. And they made me feel so drowsy and confused. When I questioned him about them, he got angry and said I was being ungrateful and that he was trying to take care of me. How long had he been giving you these pills? Emma thought for a moment. Maybe 2 weeks. It started after I tried to go to a prenatal appointment by myself. He got so angry about that. He said I was deliberately trying to exclude him from decisions about his baby. What happened at that appointment? Detective Martinez asked. I never made it there. Marcus found out I had scheduled it and… Emma's voice trailed off, and she looked down at her hands. And what? I prompted gently. He grabbed my arm so hard he left bruises. He said if I ever tried to sneak around behind his back again, there would be consequences. Then he took my car keys and my phone and said I was grounded like a child until I could learn to behave like a proper wife. I felt rage building in my chest again. Emma, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell someone? I was scared, Emma whispered, and confused. The pills made it hard to think clearly, and Marcus kept telling me I was being irrational. He said my pregnancy hormones were making me paranoid and that I was imagining things that weren't real. Detective Martinez made more notes. Emma, did Marcus ever talk about what would happen after the baby was born? He said we were going to move away, start fresh somewhere new where I could focus on being a good mother without interference from my family. Emma looked at me with tears in her eyes. Maya, he was planning to take me away from you, away from everyone who loves me. That's not going to happen, I said firmly. You're never going anywhere with Marcus again. Detective Martinez leaned forward slightly. Emma, we found a journal at your home that appears to be written in your handwriting. It contains entries about feeling depressed and wanting to hurt yourself and the baby. Did you write those entries? Emma's eyes widened. What journal? I never wrote anything like that. I would never write anything about hurting my baby. The handwriting looks very similar to yours. Marcus used to make me practice writing thank you notes and grocery lists. He said my handwriting was sloppy and that I needed to work on making it more neat and consistent. Emma's face went pale. He made me write the same phrases over and over again until they looked perfect. Maya, do you think he used those practice sheets to forge a journal? Detective Martinez and I exchanged a look. What kind of phrases did he make you practice? The detective asked. Things like, I don't think I can do this anymore, and I'm scared I'll hurt the baby, and I feel so hopeless. At the time, he said he was just helping me improve my penmanship. But now, Emma's voice broke, he was planning this, all of it. He was planning to kill me and make it look like suicide. Emma, I said carefully, is there any reason Marcus might not have wanted this baby? Emma was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her struggling with something. Emma, Detective Martinez prompted, is there something you need to tell us? Marcus wasn't the father, Emma whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear her. What? Marcus isn't the baby's father. Emma was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I had an affair. It was before Marcus and I got married, but I was already engaged to him. The timing. The baby couldn't be Marcus's. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Emma, why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed and scared. And because when I told Marcus the truth, he said it didn't matter. He said he would love the baby anyway, and that we would never speak of it again. But he didn't love the baby, Detective Martinez said. He was planning to kill the baby. I think he changed his mind after we got married, Emma said. He became more and more controlling, and he started making comments about how the baby didn't really belong to him. He said he was having second thoughts about raising another man's child. Who is the baby's father? I asked gently. Emma took a shaky breath. David Chen, Dr. Chen. We met when I was doing volunteer work at the hospital, before I met Marcus. We dated for a few months, but then he got accepted into the residency program here and decided he needed to focus on his career. We ended things amicably, and I started dating Marcus a few weeks later. Dr. Chen. The same Dr. Chen who had warned me about Marcus. The same Dr. Chen who had been so determined to make sure Emma got proper medical care. Does David know? Detective Martinez asked. I told him yesterday, Emma said quietly. When I was conscious for those few minutes before the surgery, I was so scared I was going to die, and I didn't want him to never know he had a son. That explained why Dr. Chen had been so invested in Emma's case. He hadn't just been a concerned doctor, he'd been a father protecting his child. Emma, I said, trying to process everything, did Marcus know you'd told David the truth? I don't know. Maybe. Marcus had been listening to my phone calls and reading my texts. If he found out that David knew about the baby, Emma's eyes widened with fear. Maya, if Marcus thought David was going to try to take the baby away from him, he might have decided it would be easier to just get rid of both of us. Detective Martinez was writing frantically. This gives us motive. If Mr. Rodriguez discovered that you'd told the biological father about the baby, he might have accelerated his timeline for getting rid of both you and the child. But why not just divorce me? Emma asked. Why try to kill me? The life insurance policy, Detective Martinez explained. $2 million. If he divorced you, he wouldn't get anything. But if you died under circumstances that looked like suicide due to postpartum depression, he would get $2 million and a lot of sympathy. Emma stared at her in horror. He was going to murder me for money. And to eliminate the evidence of his wife's infidelity, Detective Martinez added. In his mind, killing you and the baby solved multiple problems at once. I felt sick. Absolutely sick. Marcus had been planning to murder my sister and her innocent baby for money and revenge. What happens now? I asked. Now we have enough evidence to charge Mr. Rodriguez with attempted murder, assault, false imprisonment and fraud, Detective Martinez said. Emma's testimony, combined with the physical evidence we found and the medical evidence of poisoning and starvation, gives us a very strong case. Will he go to prison? If convicted on all charges, he's looking at 25 to life. 25 to life. It didn't seem like enough for what he'd tried to do to Emma and the baby. I want to see my son, Emma said suddenly. Please, I want to see my baby. Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway as if on cue. I heard you were awake, he said to Emma, his voice gentle. How are you feeling? Confused, scared, but alive. Emma looked at him with tears in her eyes. David, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner. You have nothing to apologize for, Dr. Chen said firmly. You were in an abusive situation, and you were doing whatever you could to survive. I'm just grateful that you and... He paused. What did you name him? Emma smiled for the first time since she'd woken up. I haven't named him yet. I was waiting to see him first. But David, would you like to help me choose a name? I would be honored. Detective Martinez closed her notebook. I'll let you three have some time together. Emma, I'll need you to give a full formal statement once you're feeling stronger, but what you've told me today is more than enough to proceed with charges against your husband. After she left, Dr. Chen helped Emma into a wheelchair, and we made our way to the NICU to see the baby. When Emma saw her son for the first time, she broke down completely. He's perfect, she sobbed. He's absolutely perfect. The baby was awake now, looking around with bright, alert eyes. When Emma placed her hand on the incubator, he turned his head toward her voice. He knows you're his mother, Dr. Chen said softly. Can I hold him? Emma asked. Let me check with the nurses, Dr. Chen said. He's doing so well that they might allow some supervised skin-to-skin contact. A few minutes later, a NICU nurse carefully lifted the baby out of his incubator and placed him in Emma's arms. He was so tiny, but he settled against her chest immediately, making small, contented sounds. Hello, baby boy, Emma whispered to him. I'm your mama. I'm sorry your first day in the world was so scary, but you're safe now. We're both safe now. I watched my sister hold her son, and I felt something I hadn't felt in hours. Hope. Emma was alive. The baby was alive. Marcus was in custody and would hopefully spend the rest of his life in prison. It wasn't the happy ending Emma had planned for, but it was a beginning. What about the name? I asked. Emma looked up at Dr. Chen, then at me, then down at the baby in her arms. I want to name him Gabriel, she said. Gabriel David Rodriguez Chen. Gabriel means God is my strength, and after everything we've been through, that feels right. Gabriel, Dr. Chen repeated, tears in his eyes. Gabriel David, I love it. Little Gabriel chose that moment to open his eyes and look directly at his mother. Emma laughed through her tears. I think he approves, she said. We spent the next hour in the NICU, taking turns holding Gabriel and marveling at how perfect he was, despite everything he'd been through. Dr. Chen arranged for Emma to have a private room next to the NICU so she could be close to the baby during his stay. It was while we were helping Emma get settled in her new room that Detective Martinez returned, and she didn't look happy. We have a problem, she announced without preamble. What kind of problem? I asked, immediately on alert. Marcus Rodriguez made bail. Emma went white. What do you mean he made bail? I thought you said he was being charged with attempted murder. He was. He is. But his lawyer argued that he was a pillar of the community with no prior criminal record, and the judge set bail at $500,000. Detective Martinez looked disgusted. Rodriguez's family posted it within 2 hours. So he's free? I could hear the panic in my own voice. He's free until trial. He's been issued a restraining order that prohibits him from coming within 500 feet of you or the baby, Emma. And there's a condition of bail that he surrender his passport and check in with a bail bondsman twice weekly. But yes, technically, he's free. Emma started shaking. He's going to come after me. He's going to try to finish what he started. No, he's not, I said firmly. Because you're not going to be alone. You're going to stay with me, and we're going to make sure you and Gabriel are protected. There's something else, Detective Martinez continued, and her expression was even more troubled. When Rodriguez was processed out of jail, he was given back his personal effects. His cell phone, his wallet, his keys. The desk sergeant said he immediately made several phone calls before leaving the building. To who? We don't know, but one of our undercover officers followed him from the jail, and Rodriguez drove straight to Emma's house. He was inside for about 20 minutes before leaving with a large suitcase. He went to our house? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. What do you think he was looking for? I asked. Detective Martinez consulted her notes. We'd already processed the crime scene and removed most of the evidence, but there could have been things we missed: personal documents, additional recording equipment, maybe even evidence that could implicate other people in his plan. Other people? Dr. Chen spoke up for the first time. You think he had help? It's possible. The level of planning that went into this scheme suggests Rodriguez might not have been working alone. The forged journal entries, the life insurance policy, the sophisticated surveillance equipment. It's a lot for one person to coordinate. I felt cold dread settling in my stomach. You think someone else was involved in trying to murder my sister? It's a working theory, and if Rodriguez was getting help from someone else, that person is still out there. Emma was crying again. Maya, I want to take Gabriel and leave. I want to go somewhere Marcus can never find us. You can't run, Emma, Detective Martinez said gently. If you leave the state before trial, it could hurt the prosecution's case. And besides, running wouldn't solve anything. If Rodriguez really wants to hurt you, he'll find a way to track you down. Then what do we do? I asked. We stay vigilant, we follow the safety protocols, and we trust that the justice system will work. The justice system? The same justice system that had just released a man who'd tried to murder a pregnant woman and her unborn child. Detective, Dr. Chen said. Is there any way to get additional protection for Emma and the baby? Private security, maybe? The hospital has already increased security on this floor, Detective Martinez replied. And we're working with local law enforcement to have regular patrol cars in the area where Emma will be staying. But Ms. Rodriguez, I have to be honest with you, we can't provide round-the-clock protection indefinitely. How long until the trial? Emma asked. At least 6 months, maybe longer if his lawyer files delays. 6 months. Emma would have to live in fear for 6 months, constantly looking over her shoulder, wondering if Marcus was planning another attempt on her life. There's one more thing, Detective Martinez said, pulling out a manila envelope. When we processed Rodriguez's personal effects, we found this in his wallet. She handed Emma a folded piece of paper. Emma opened it with shaking hands, then gasped. What is it? I asked. Emma handed me the paper without saying anything. It was a DNA test result. A paternity test, to be specific. And according to the document, Marcus Rodriguez was not the biological father of Emma's baby. He knew, Emma whispered. The whole time he knew Gabriel wasn't his son. The test is dated 3 weeks ago, Detective Martinez pointed out, which means Rodriguez had definitive proof of the baby's paternity before he started escalating his abuse. 3 weeks ago, I repeated. That's right around when you said he started giving you the pills that made you drowsy. Emma nodded. He must have gotten suspicious and ordered the test without telling me. When it came back proving he wasn't the father, he decided to kill us both rather than raise another man's child. But why not just divorce you? Dr. Chen asked. Why go through this elaborate murder plot? The life insurance money, Detective Martinez explained, and probably revenge. In Rodriguez's mind, Emma had betrayed him by having another man's baby and trying to pass it off as his. He wanted to punish her for that betrayal. But he said it didn't matter, Emma said, confused. When I first told him about the affair, he said he didn't care about the paternity and that he would love the baby anyway. He was lying, I said flatly. He was already planning to get rid of both of you, even back then. He just needed time to set up the perfect murder plot. Detective Martinez put the paternity test results back in the envelope. This actually helps our case. It establishes clear motive and premeditation. Rodriguez knew the baby wasn't his, and instead of dealing with that information like a normal person would, through divorce proceedings or counseling, he chose murder. What about David? Emma looked at Dr. Chen. Could Marcus come after you too, if he blames you for ruining his marriage? Dr. Chen's jaw tightened. Let him try. I'm not some pregnant woman he can poison and starve into submission. If Rodriguez wants to come after me, he'll find out that I'm more than capable of defending myself. David, Emma said urgently, please don't do anything reckless. Gabriel needs his father alive and safe. Gabriel needs his father. It was the first time Emma had openly acknowledged that Dr. Chen was Gabriel's father, and I could see the impact those words had on him. You're right, Dr. Chen said, his voice softer. Gabriel needs both his parents alive and safe, which means we all need to be smart about this. Detective Martinez stood up to leave. I'll be in touch as soon as we know more about Rodriguez's activities since making bail. In the meantime, Emma, I strongly recommend that you don't go anywhere alone, don't establish any predictable routines, and if you see anything suspicious, anything at all, call 911 immediately. After she left, the three of us sat in silence for a while. Emma was exhausted from the emotional trauma of the day, and Gabriel needed to go back to the NICU for his evening feeding and monitoring. I should go home, I finally said. Pack some things for you and get your room ready. Maya? Emma caught my hand as I stood up. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, about David being the father, about how bad things had gotten with Marcus. I was so ashamed, and I didn't want you to think I'd ruined my life. Emma, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You fell in love with someone who turned out to be a monster. That's not your fault. And David isn't a mistake. Look at that beautiful baby you created together. I just keep thinking about how differently things could have turned out, Emma said, tears streaming down her face again. If Marcus had succeeded, if you hadn't gotten that call from the hospital in time. But he didn't succeed, I said firmly. You're alive, Gabriel is alive, and Marcus is going to spend the rest of his life in prison for what he tried to do to you. I hope so, Emma whispered. I really hope so. I kissed her forehead and promised to be back first thing in the morning with clothes and toiletries for her extended hospital stay. As I walked out of the hospital into the cold night air, I felt a mixture of relief and terror. Emma was safe for now, but Marcus was out on bail, and according to Detective Martinez, he might not be working alone. My sister and my nephew were still in danger, and there was nothing I could do about it except wait and hope that the justice system would protect them. As I got into my car, I noticed a black sedan parked across the street from the hospital entrance. It was probably nothing, just someone visiting a patient or waiting for someone to get off work. But as I pulled out of the parking lot, the sedan pulled out too. I made a right turn at the next intersection. The sedan made the same turn. I made another right turn, then a left. The sedan stayed behind me, maintaining a careful distance but never falling out of sight. Someone was following me. I fumbled for my phone and dialed Detective Martinez's number. Rodriguez, I said when she answered. I think he's having me followed. Where are you now? Driving home from the hospital. There's a black sedan that's been behind me for the last 10 minutes. Can you see the license plate? I checked my rearview mirror. It's too dark and they're staying too far back. Okay, listen carefully. Don't go home. Drive to the nearest police station. I'll meet you there. What if they follow me to the police station? Good, then we'll have them right where we want them. I followed Detective Martinez's directions to the nearest police station, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The black sedan stayed behind me the entire way, even pulling into the police station parking lot. As soon as I parked, Detective Martinez emerged from the building with 2 uniformed officers. They surrounded the black sedan before the driver could react. I watched through my windshield as they pulled a man out of the car. He was middle-aged, well-dressed, and completely unfamiliar to me. But what caught my attention was Detective Martinez's reaction when she saw his face. She looked shocked. After a few minutes of heated conversation, Detective Martinez walked over to my car. "Do you recognize that man?" she asked, pointing to the driver they'd detained. I looked more carefully. No, I've never seen him before in my life. Who is he? His name is William Rodriguez. He's Marcus Rodriguez's older brother, and he's a private investigator. Marcus's brother, a private investigator. The pieces were starting to fall into place. He was gathering intelligence, Detective Martinez continued. Information about your routines, where you live, where you work, when you visit Emma at the hospital. Marcus wasn't planning to come after Emma himself. He was planning to have his brother do it. So Marcus does have help. More than that, according to William Rodriguez's statement, Marcus never intended to get caught. The plan was for William to eliminate both you and Emma while Marcus was somewhere public with a solid alibi. Then Marcus would play the grieving widower who'd lost his wife and sister-in-law to some random act of violence. I felt sick. He was going to kill me too. You're Emma's closest family member and biggest support system. In Marcus's mind, you were a threat to his plans. If Emma survived his first murder attempt, you would be the one helping her rebuild her life and potentially uncovering evidence of his crimes. What happens now? Now we arrest both Rodriguez brothers for conspiracy to commit murder, and Emma becomes our star witness in a case that's about to get a lot more serious. As Detective Martinez walked back toward the police station with William Rodriguez in custody, I sat in my car trying to process everything that had happened in the last 12 hours. Emma had nearly been murdered by her husband. Gabriel had nearly been killed before he'd even had a chance to live. And I had nearly become the next target in Marcus Rodriguez's twisted revenge plot. But we were all alive. We had survived. And Marcus Rodriguez was about to learn that when you try to destroy a family, sometimes that family fights back harder than you ever expected. The nightmare wasn't over yet. But for the first time since I'd gotten that terrible phone call, I felt like we might actually win this fight. Emma and Gabriel deserved justice, and I was going to make sure they got it. Epilogue, 6 months later. I'm sitting in the courtroom holding 6-month-old Gabriel while Emma gives her testimony against Marcus Rodriguez. Her voice is strong and clear as she describes the months of abuse, the systematic poisoning, and the elaborate murder plot that nearly cost her and Gabrielle their lives. Marcus sits at the defendant's table, looking nothing like the charming man who'd swept Emma off her feet 3 years ago. His lawyer keeps objecting to Emma's testimony, but Judge Harrison overrules every single objection. The evidence against Marcus is overwhelming. The forged journal, the life insurance policy, the surveillance equipment, the antihistamine poisoning, the DNA test proving he knew Gabriel wasn't his biological father. And now, thanks to his brother William's confession, we also have evidence of the conspiracy to murder both Emma and me. Gabriel babbles softly in my arms, completely unaware that this trial will determine whether the man who tried to kill him spends the rest of his life in prison. He's grown so much in the past 6 months. He's sitting up on his own now, laughing at everything, and has the brightest, most curious eyes I've ever seen. Emma has been amazing throughout this whole ordeal. She moved in with me after getting out of the hospital, and we've created a little family unit that works beautifully. Dr. Chen David comes over most evenings after work to spend time with Gabriel, and I can see that he and Emma are slowly building something real and healthy together. It's nothing like the whirlwind romance she had with Marcus. This is gentle and careful, and based on mutual respect and genuine care for each other. David never pressures Emma, never makes decisions for her, never tries to isolate her from her family. He treats her like an equal partner, and Gabriel's mother not like his property. The prosecution calls its final witness, William Rodriguez, Marcus's brother. He takes the stand in shackles and an orange jumpsuit, having already pled guilty to conspiracy charges in exchange for his testimony against Marcus. Mr. Rodriguez, the prosecutor begins, can you tell the court about the conversation you had with your brother on November 15th of last year? Marcus called me and said he had a problem that needed to be solved permanently, William says, not looking at his brother. He said his wife was threatening to leave him and take the baby, and he couldn't let that happen. What did he ask you to do? He wanted me to make both Emma and her sister disappear. He said it needed to look like a random crime, something that couldn't be traced back to him. Did he offer you payment for this service? $500,000 from the life insurance money, plus another $100,000 for my professional services. I feel Emma tense beside me as William describes how Marcus had planned our murders in cold detail. 2 sisters killed in a home invasion gone wrong. Marcus would have an alibi. He was planning to be at a work conference in another state when it happened. Did your brother express any remorse about having his wife and unborn child killed? The prosecutor asks. None, William says flatly. He said Emma had betrayed him by getting pregnant with another man's baby, and she deserved whatever happened to her. He said the baby was better off dead than growing up as evidence of Emma's infidelity. Marcus's lawyer objects, but the damage is done. The jury can see exactly what kind of monster Marcus really is. The trial lasts 2 weeks. The jury deliberates for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts: attempted murder of Emma Rodriguez, attempted murder of an unborn child, conspiracy to commit murder of Maya Rodriguez, insurance fraud, domestic violence, false imprisonment, assault. Judge Harrison sentences Marcus Rodriguez to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As the bailiff leads Marcus away in handcuffs, he turns and looks directly at Emma one last time. His expression is pure hatred. This isn't over, he mouths silently. But it is over. Marcus Rodriguez will die in prison, and Emma and Gabriel will live full, happy lives without him. Outside the courthouse, Emma, David, Gabriel, and I stand together on the steps. Reporters are asking questions, cameras are flashing, but all I can focus on is my sister's face. She looks peaceful for the first time in months. Really, truly peaceful. How do you feel? I ask her. Free, she says, kissing Gabriel's forehead. For the first time in so long, I feel completely free. David puts his arm around her shoulders, and she leans into him. They're not married. Emma says she needs time to heal from her trauma before she's ready to make that kind of commitment again. But they're building something beautiful together, something based on trust and respect and genuine love. Aunt Maya, Gabriel suddenly reaches for me, and I take him from Emma's arms. At 6 months old, he's just started saying Mama and Dada, and what sounds suspiciously like Maya when he wants me. Hey, little man, I say, bouncing him gently. We did it. We kept you and your mama safe. He grins at me with his 2 new teeth and babbles something that might be agreement. As we walk away from the courthouse, I think about that terrible night 6 months ago when I got the call that Emma had collapsed. I think about how close we came to losing everything, but we didn't lose everything. We saved it all. Emma is alive and thriving. Gabriel is healthy and perfect. Marcus is in prison where he belongs. And our family is stronger than ever. Sometimes the story doesn't end the way the villain planned. Sometimes the women he tried to destroy end up being the ones who destroy him instead. And sometimes, in the midst of the worst nightmare you can imagine, you discover just how strong and fierce and unbreakable love can really be. Gabriel falls asleep in my arms as we drive home, completely safe and surrounded by people who would do anything to protect him. That's the ending Marcus Rodriguez never saw coming, and it's the beginning Emma and Gabriel deserved all along.